Everyone. We'll just give folks another minute or two to join before we get started. Um, thank you for joining us. Elsa, it looks like you have your hand up.
Uh, no.
No, so this is Dee Logan. I'm a project manager at iSpark. At the webinar, everyone comes in muted with their cameras off. If you need to send a message to me, please feel free to use the chat or a direct message. There will be a Q&A session after Colleen has finished her presentation, and it will be moderated. Please use the Q&A button or the chat to send questions to Colleen. As you can see, there is an ASL interpreter available. And if you need captions, they're available in the Zoom platform by clicking the Show Captions button at the bottom of your panel. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available at a later date. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try to share my screen now. Okay. So today's webinar is on the Adult Community Clinical Services, ACCS, coaching a strengths-based approach. I'm Colleen McKay. I'm an assistant professor at UMass Chan in the Implementation Science and Practice Advances Research Center, or iSpark. I am part of the Implementation Science and Technical Assistance team at iSpark in UMass. So during today's coaching webinar, some of the things that we'll be covering is information needed to implement effective coaching strategies. These are particularly around to better support persons with lived experience, kind of a review of what coaching is and is not, and the benefits of coaching. Different models and frameworks relevant to mental health service providers, although we'll be focusing on the GROW coaching framework today, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and how to integrate it into ACCS settings. The strategies that you can use for integrating coaching into your organization or practices, and those can be used to address issues and foster growth. And we'll also explore and have some examples of how tools and methods can be used to measure success and impact of coaching, such as goal attainment scaling. So defining coaching. Let's see if I can get this menu, sorry. There we go, that might be better. Coaching, you see here we have several different definitions. Coaching has been defined as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. It can also be helping high-performing individuals obtain support to perform even better. In the ACCS provider survey, coaching was defined as a process for helping staff as they hone their skills for working with persons served. And implementation science has defined coaching as the process of helping staff implement a new program and practice through regular feedback and support. So thinking about learning and coaching, some principles. Adults need to know we are self-directed. We all bring a wealth of prior experience. We learn when we have a need to learn. We are relevancy oriented and internally motivated. And so why consider coaching? So some of the benefits: it can help staff become less overwhelmed with their workloads or caseloads. You can develop strategies to deal with frustrations. There's ways to quantify measures of success that can lead to an improved work environment. It can improve motivation and morale. It can help develop skills that can be used to promote career advancement. And it can also ensure that evidence-based practices are delivered as intended. The implementation science framework that we use is the Active Implementation Framework by Fixon and Blaze. You'll see the diagram on the right. There are competency drivers, organization drivers, and leadership drivers. Today we're focusing on competency drivers, particularly coaching within that. We have focused with ACCS on training and selection, so like the ACCS hiring packet in the past. And today's webinar is really focused around the coaching driver. And these drivers are designed to improve performance assessment or fidelity to an intervention. So program or service is implemented consistently, and that should ultimately result in improved outcomes. So why coaching? It's an effective way to improve performance to achieve positive outcomes. Goals are defined and understood. Expectations between a team leader and team members are aligned. Transfer of knowledge on a just-in-time basis rather than training at the point of need. You can establish a more reactive and adaptive team. It allows for early identification of unforeseen barriers to performance. It's a commitment to continual learning and improvement, and a movement to superior team performance. Coaching, as we mentioned earlier, can also be assessed. And typically that involves having someone accountable for coaching staff who will carry out the program or practice. Coaching is provided to improve the competency of staff who carry out the program or practice. Agency and staff can use a coaching service delivery plan, and it also allows them to regularly assess coaching effectiveness. There are a couple of resources also on the screen, and we have these throughout the webinar on coaching. We'll have the PowerPoint and the webinar up on our site at a later date, and you'll be able to access these resources through the links there. So what coaching is not? It's not training, teaching, consulting, managing. It's not intended to, quote, unquote, fix someone, and it's not meant to be discipline. The idea is that you're increasing team responsibility for providing content and managing the process. And as you can see, you kind of move from the beginning, where you're doing tasks, and it could be a specific task such as data entry, report, maybe a case note or something like that. And then you move on to project management, consulting, where you may be offering expertise, providing answers or guidance. Training may offer content or practical expertise in an educational model and in a structured way. And then we move to coaching, which is really guiding a team or individual to use their own content and process expertise to solve problems and make progress. So just a quick review of how supervision differs from coaching. In supervision, normally you're directing subordinates' work schedules, daily activities. You're setting performance expectations, rates of performance. And usually the focus is on meeting agency expectations and following agency procedures. So who can be a coach? What are good characteristics of a coach? Someone experienced with a specific coachable skill. I think for many of us, when we think about coaches, or our first experience with coaches is normally in sports when we're in school. And then later on, as we expand to our careers, really that's a different way of thinking about a coach. When I first started my career, I never gave a thought about a coach for my career and my performance, but I certainly had them, when I was doing sports as a young person. A coach should be committed to continuous learning and improvement. They should be available and accessible. It's kind of tough if you want to coach and the coach never has time for your coaching needs. So really important that there's time set aside or built in to do coaching. A coach should be skilled at building rapport, and a coach should be assertive but not pushy. So we're going to do a quick poll just to think about your own practices. Do you engage in coaching, in supervision, or some sort of combination of them both? And there's no right or wrong answer. We'll give everyone a minute or two, and then we'll have Dee share the results with us.
The number of people answering is still going up, but
That's
I
quite
will
all right.
cut it off in 1 second. Going once, going twice. All right. We have 117 people have responded. I'm going to end the poll. And would you like me to share the results?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay, so we actually have more coaches in the audience, or people that do coaching versus supervision, at least the way we've defined them today, or some combination of both. So good. Later on, we're going to try to have a little interactive portion of the webinar, and maybe we can tap into a few people that have some coaching expertise or someone who wants to try it. So the coaching environment, where and how can coaching be done? Face-to-face, virtual or hybrid, could be individual or group-based. And then the frequency of coaching sessions, monthly, weekly, or quarterly. Increased frequency of sessions and number of coaching hours are not linked to greater outcomes. The environment really should be tailored and based on individual needs to the extent possible. So thinking about some coaching competencies around communication, being able to communicate instructions, provide feedback, and listening for understanding. And you'll hear more about the some of these, I think, when we start talking about the GROW coaching model. Performance improvement, so setting goals, assessing strengths and weaknesses, rewarding improvement, and dealing with failure or setbacks. As far as relationships, building rapport and trust, being able to motivate others, working with personal issues and confronting difficult situations, and then execution, being able to respond to requests and follow through. So thinking about coaching as a strengths-based approach, it's focused on a psychological approach aimed at facilitating goal achievement, well-being, and positive changes. And this focus on personal strengths can lead to positive individual outcomes and organizational outcomes. For individuals, there may be improved performance, self-efficacy, life satisfaction, and self-confidence. And for an organization, this may mean you're better able to retain staff, talent, better able to engage employees, your customer satisfaction, or it may be funder or Department of Mental Health satisfaction, and then financial benefits. So within coaching, there's an emphasis on personal strengths. And you can see here there are several different tools that can be used to examine and explore an individual's strengths: Strengths Finder, Strengths Coach, Strengths Scope, values of in action inventory, or the VIA personality test. And these can be used if someone needs assistance in really identifying their own personal strengths. So thinking about the key traits of a good workplace coach. And here we're thinking about ACCS settings, mental health settings. So someone who understands mental health, ethics, and challenges that professionals face, helping providers manage stress and preventing burnout, someone who nurtures professional growth and reminds providers to prioritize self-care, preparing professionals with strategies for tough situations or tough cases, offering a fresh perspective and alternative approaches for these challenging cases, making sure that ethical standards are upheld, and promoting teamwork, sharing knowledge, and support. So there are a number of coaching models and frameworks. We have all of these in more detail in a separate presentation and webinar that can be made available if you're interested and haven't seen it. Today we are focusing on the GROW model, which I'll talk about in more detail in a minute. There are 3 other coaching models that have come out of the GROW model: the CIGAR, CLEAR, and Genius. As well as these other coaching models that you've seen there and may have seen used in practice, like OSCAR or Achieve, the 5 C's. And once again, just a reminder that coaching is one of the competency drivers in the active implementation framework. It's really designed to have programs implemented consistently, which should lead to improved outcomes. So the GROW coaching framework has been around for a long time. It was developed in England in the mid-1980s, It was used mostly with corporate coaching with executives and leaders. Um, Sir John Whitmore published a book back in 1992 called Coaching for Performance. And thinking about GROW is an acronym for Goal, Reality, Options, and the way or will forward. So thinking about goals, what is it that you want to achieve? Exploring the reality, what is actually happening? What's getting in the way of meeting the goal? Options, what are things that can be done to work towards the goal? And then the way forward or the will do, what are the actions that can be taken to move forward? So some of the advantages of a GROW, it can be used in a variety of settings. So it could be used one-on-one individual coaching, group coaching, or in business meeting settings. It focuses on setting goals using SMART goals. It's structured and task-oriented. Some of the cons or challenges with this is a coach may not be aware of the full reality. So it's really important to kind of explore what is happening. Action can be overemphasized, so that really just emphasizing exploring awareness and understanding. That's really a key part of the GROW model. The coach should be guiding the conversation. And then you need a coach who is really motivated and interested in having the will to get things done. If a coach is kind of, things are status quo, that's going to be a disadvantage. There are a couple more resources at the bottom of your screen there. So the GROW coaching framework. A coaching framework is a structured process designed to guide the coaching processes and ensure efficiency and consistency when coaching individuals. So thinking about GROW again, goals. What do you want to achieve? The reality. What is happening? What's getting in the way of goals? And as far as options, what can be done to work towards the goals? That's really a key area where individual strengths can be incorporated. And then the way forward or the will do, what actions will be taken? What steps are going to be undertaken to meet the goals? And thinking about the goals, we use a SMART goal format: specific, measurable, attainable, time-bound, and relevant. And these really help structure goals so they're not vague. They have deadlines or time frames, and they can be measured so you can assess progress. So we have an example of utilizing the goal coaching framework in an ACCS setting. This first case example, John, an ACCS housing coordinator, is struggling to assist persons served with determining their barriers of housing to develop appropriate planning. John is quiet. He prefers written versus oral communication and would like to develop his ability to successfully engage in motivational interviewing with clients. John's supervisor, Tom, recommends that he participates in coaching sessions with experienced housing coordinator, Jim. John recognizes he has many strengths, such as self-regulation of his emotions, the ability to understand the perspectives of others, and he's very curious about ways that he can best meet the needs of everyone that he works with. For this example, we're going to assume that John has some experience with motivational interviewing. We also have a training module for ACCS on motivational interviewing. That resource is also available should people need it. So one, thinking about the goals using the SMART format. So John's goal will be to apply motivational interviewing skills during interactions with at least 50% of persons served within 1 month. So once again, thinking about the SMART goal, it's measurable and time-bound. So then exploring what is the reality. So John typically meets with persons served in a group-based setting, which reduces the amount of time he speaks. Consequently, he infrequently asks open-ended questions, often relying on others to set the pace for meetings. So what are some options? How can John's strengths be included, and how can they influence success? So John recognizes his ability to self-regulate his emotions, facilitates calmness during stressful discussions. He can understand how others feel by easily restating what persons served mentioned during housing conversations, and demonstrates a level of empathy and understanding. His curiosity helps him to ask questions that others might not even consider. John feels that he must focus on improving his ability to verbally ask questions by focusing on these strengths. And so what is the way forward, or the things that John will do? John has decided that with the assistance of his coach, he will lead meetings, questions regarding barriers to housing for persons served, to practice elicitation of open-ended questions, and to establish better communication practices as part of most motivational interviewing. So let's practice. We can either do this one of two ways. If someone is interested in practicing and would like to unmute, we could use a couple of volunteers. If no one wishes to volunteer, we will ask you to put some suggestions into the chat. If you wish to volunteer, you can raise your hand. Do you just let me know if anyone volunteers? If not, we'll move on.
Ryan has volunteered, and you should be allowed to unmute.
Hello.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being willing to volunteer.
Totally.
So this next example, Mary is an ACCS licensed practitioner of the healing arts. She's prescriptive and rigid in developing goals and treatment plans, and not giving persons served an opportunity to explore their individual needs. She realizes she needs a better understanding of how to engage in person-centered planning. She has always looked up to the way that her coworker Jean, a registered nurse, engages persons served in person-centered planning regarding medication usage and administration. She's asked Jean if she would coach her on improving her ability to engage with persons served in the person-centered planning process. Mary acknowledges that she has many personal strengths, such as honesty, a sense of responsibility, and a focus. So goals using the SMART format. What might be a goal for Mary?
You asking me?
Yes.
A goal might be to practice asking questions about people's interests and values. Maybe she could do that 3 times a week with coworkers first for the first month. Because she might feel a little more comfortable doing that with coworkers to get some practice.
And you said how many times?
So that's the attainable part.
Yes, and it's also measurable. So how many times you said?
3 times, let's say 3 questions a day with her coworkers that have to do with something about a coworker's interests or values.
Okay. And then we might, to really kind of nail down the SMART aspect, but, say by, July 1st or something, right?
Great.
And then so what is the reality?
Um, the reality is Mary cares about her job and cares about being effective. But the method she's used so far in terms of engaging clients haven't worked very well, at least not in a way that she's satisfied with. And she's open to learning how to shift that to be more
Right.
effective.
Okay, and what might be some options for Mary? And we want to focus
Uh,
on her strengths and how they can
yeah.
influence success.
Yeah, so as if I was her coach, like I would focus on the fact that it seems to be that she's works well with a prescriptive style. She's focused, she has a sense of responsibility, she's driven. Um, so I might use those strengths in terms of just being direct with her. I think this SMART framework would work really well with Mary. Um, and I would also model the person-centered thing she's wanting to learn. So I would want to be validating her strengths as I'm coaching her and offering her feedback.
That's
And
great.
then I might, uh, well, I'm kind of getting into the fourth box, I guess. So I would model, and then maybe the next supervision or the coaching session I have with her, I would um, like I would kind of describe what we were doing together as as a parallel process, so that she understood that the coach was doing the same thing that the coach is asking her to do with clients.
Okay. Coach, explain process to Mary, right? Something like
Yeah.
that. Okay. This is great. Thank you. Thank you very much for your willingness to step up to the coaching challenge.
Absolutely.
So uh, um, before we move on, just kind of throw it out there for the audience, and we're not expecting everyone to answer. But just have you used this before? Is this similar to what you would do? Um, are there other things that you might think about doing? And have you used this kind of framework before? As you can see, it really gives you a concrete way to structure the coaching and the grow model. And then thinking about goal attainment scaling. So we can actually frame this onto this tool onto the exercise that we just did. And this really allows us to document goals and give you a score of how well goals are attained, how much progress has been made on attaining a goal. Goal attainment scaling is a person-centered and collaborative approach. It promotes involvement of persons served. Goals should be unique to the individual and their situation. Once again, we're using the SMART criteria, and you're really able to calculate or examine the extent of whether goals are being met. So goal attainment scaling, focusing on specific skill developmental goals. This is usually for an individual. Goal setting works best when the staff person sets goals collaboratively with a coach to ensure that the goals are meaningful, valid, and smart. Each area of skill development is measured on a 5-point scale to operationalize progress. And then progress can be measured, whether it's monthly, every 6 weeks, quarterly, or a specific time frame agreed upon by the individual and their coach. So thinking about coaching measures using goal attainment scaling, here we have an example of level 2, which is someone really starting out at baseline. You haven't really reached the anticipated outcome. And then you can see as you move up, your projected level of performance may have a mild impact. And as you progress, you move on to more than the anticipated outcome with a moderate impact and a much higher or more than anticipated outcome for a strong impact. And what you can use, and we're going to see that in the next set of slides, is starting with this blank coaching measure document. So the SMART goals can be inputted here to assess progress. And typically you would select 3 or 4 goals. So starting with our blank form, so somewhat less than anticipated outcome. Here the person wants to improve their ability to apply trauma-informed care when working with persons served. Where they're at baseline. I am not demonstrating the ability to promote a sense of safety and trustworthiness by being respectful, honest, clear, and responsive to persons served. And I'm using these skills less than 50% of the time as evidenced by my supervisor. And you can see here on this slide, the entire kind of scale is filled out. So the next step, as someone starts to have improvement and a mild impact, I will currently promote a sense of safety and trustworthiness by being respectful, honest, clear, and responsive to persons served. And I will use these skills at least 50% of the time as evidenced by my supervisor. And as someone practices these and starts to acquire more skills and confidence, I will currently promote a sense of safety and trustworthiness by being respectful, honest, clear, and responsive, and using these skills 70 to 89% of the time. And then you can see level 5, they're using these skills 90 to 95% of the time. So once again, thinking about the SMART goal format, but then quantifying kind of where a person is at in terms of their ability to provide this service or support. We also have some resources and forms for individual goals. So here's a blank form for the goal attainment scale for an individual goal. This is just another version of what you saw. You could put, here when we started at baseline, current level would be 2. The goal would go up here. And then if somebody had multiple goals, you can see now there are columns for up to 5 different goals. You would have each statement at the top would have each individual SMART goal. Some other resources, the Veterans Affairs has a nice Grow model template that you can download and use. It's a fillable form. So thinking about, what is it you want to talk about or achieve? There can be a long-term goal, a performance goal, or even an individual coaching session goal. And once again, using the Grow model, what's happening now? What's the current reality? What's been tried so far? Really, diving in, explore that reality, what might be getting in the way from meeting that goal. What are those barriers? The options, what are things you might be able to do? What else can be tried? And then what's next? So what is, the will or the way forward? We have more resources here, video lessons, some examples. And then just a number of resources and evidence for coaching. These are the citations and links that we've discussed throughout today's webinar. And we'll open up for questions in a minute. But if you have a technical assistance need, feel free to reach out to the technical assistance team at spark@umassmed or edu. Or you can visit us at our website under the TA section. The material for the ACCS coaching, a strengths-based approach, can be found at this link, which will be in the webinar and in the slide deck that we post. And just before we open up the questions, we just want to let people know about DMH's 2025 Annual Research Center of Excellence Conference. This year's theme is promoting youth mental and behavioral health, understanding and assessing risk and protective factors to improve youth well-being and outcomes. There's a QR code down at the bottom right that you can scan if you haven't already registered and you're interested in participating in the conference, which is on Thursday, May 29th from 12:30 to 4:30 via Zoom. And there are references, and at this point, we will open it up for questions. Dee is also, while we're waiting for any questions, Dee has put the links for the TA in the chat, as well as the link to register for the conference. Joe has asked whether slides will be available. Yes, we will post the webinar as well as the slides. Dee, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we could probably send anyone who registered a link later.
Yes, we will send a link to where the materials are to everyone who registered, including those who were unable to attend today or had to leave early or came late.
Do people see themselves incorporating some of these activities into their coaching? I see a couple of yeses there. That's great. That's great, everyone. Yeah, somebody else said they would try. They have some ideas. I think even just if you're not 100% comfortable yet, even just starting it at least conveys a message, right, to the people that you're working with, that like you're really invested in them and their improvements and their goals. For folks who are already using coaching, how do you use it in your practices? And you can just throw it in the chat. Somebody said this will be a portion of clients, that this will be effective. Are most people using with clients? Are you using with staff? Yeah, clients. Yeah. Somebody mentioned in the chat, there are some clients who struggle with cognitive abilities and disordered thinking where it may not work as well. This may work well with clients who have substance misuse issues. Somebody else said both, or we could expand upon the coaching training. Is that the coaching training within your agency, Catherine? Somebody else, mainly clients. Dee has mentioned that we will add the Centers of Excellence conference link in the email announcing that the webinar materials are available. Somebody else may use a different modality, and that's fine. The GROW is a widely used model of coaching, and that's the one we picked for today. But if there is another coaching model that works better for you, for your organization, feel free to use it. Somebody else, I'm not sure that staff will want to set their goals as SMART goals. So what would be the challenge for someone to have as a staff to have a SMART goal? To me, having having a SMART goal kind of gives me a time frame to work within. It holds me accountable, as well as either the coach or my supervisor, if it's a supervisory goal. It may be that perhaps staff are busy, so they're reluctant to kind of be held to these goals. I'm not sure, Lori. Somebody else said they're just not used to being given SMART goals. So as it sounds like many of you will use these coaching frameworks with clients, and it may be that as you begin to work with clients or persons served in using this format, that you as a staff may be more comfortable using it with your own coaching and growth. So we have a few more minutes left. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? We want to thank you all for attending today. Thank you for Catherine. She loves my background. This is actually the Tower Hill Botanical Garden. Christopher asked about which training will be sent in the email. We can send you links to all of the resources and trainings that we mentioned today when we follow up. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.